Probably the most onerous parts of the so-called PRO Act is the idea that Congress gets to define who is and isn't an employee. Section 2(3) of the National Labor Relations Act is amended by adding at the end the following. An individual performing any service shall be considered an employee, except as provided in the previous sentence, and not an independent contractor unless the individual is free from control and direction in connection with the performance of the service, both under the contract for the performance of the service and in fact. The service is performed outside the usual course of the business of the employer, and the individual is customarily engaged in an independently established trade, occupation, profession, or business of the same nature as that involved in the service performed. Rather than protecting the right to organize, this act starts by depriving the right of the people to work independently. The law basically says that you're an employee unless the government says you are not one. California tried this already with AB 5, which took effect in January 2020. AB 5 was an attempt by California to regulate companies like Uber and Lyft that hire large numbers of so-called gig workers. The problem is the PRO Act, like AB 5 before it, assumes that everyone wants to be an employee. Many people who work at these companies don't want to work for them, not to mention all the independent truck drivers and freelancers who AB 5 did and the PRO Act would suck up into their socialist utopia of large corporations and unions. While it may not be the intention of the PRO Act, one effect would certainly be to cripple the independent workforce. The PRO Act not so much protects the right of employees to organize, but forces companies to bow to the demands of their unions. Whenever the National Labor Relations Board directs an election under Section 9C or approves an election agreement, the employer of employees in the bargaining unit shall, not later than 2 business days after the board directs such election or approves such election agreement, provide a voter list to a labor organization that has petitioned to represent such employees.